This video is an introduction to x2yMorph version 2.2. When you start the application, a good place to start to familiarize yourself with the app is to tap on the question mark key in the lower right, and that will bring up this screen. It begins "Welcome to x2yMorph." There's an introduction, there's a brief summary of how you can begin, and then there are details, kind of organized in the order of these buttons at the bottom of the screen. Let's begin by tapping on the Morphs button. This shows you what morphs are currently installed on your device. These four are ones that are built into the app that should always be there, and you can add as many as you'd like. The newer ones appear at the top of this list. But just to get started, let's take a look at this morph. This goes between a cat's face and a dog's face. The organization of the material on the screen is that the two images that you have begun with, in this case a cat image on the left, a dog image on the right, appear at the top of the screen. And in the middle of the screen there's this morphed image. You can control the extent to which it is morphed from what we call the A image to the B image with this slider. If it's way over at the extreme left, you get the A image. If it's over at the extreme right, you get the B image, and in between you get whatever the slider is set for. In this case it's about the halfway point between the A and the B image. If you want to look at the images in a kind of a moving fashion, there are several modes. There's a forward mode, which always goes from the A image to the B image. There's a reverse mode, which goes from the B image back to the A image and repeats. And there's a loop mode, which goes back and forth, going from A to B, then back from B to A. If I pause and zoom, then I can see the full resolution image occupying the full width of the screen. And I can loop or use these other motion control buttons. Now, if I would like to create from scratch a morph of my own, I do that by selecting New A. New A lets me select an image for my camera roll, for example. Let me pick this image of Rembrandt. This is courtesy of the National Gallery of Art website, which provides this kind of material for folks that wish to have it at low to medium resolution, which is fine for this application. Let me choose this after I have zoomed to show essentially what I want to of the face. I'll select Choose. That becomes the new A image. This is left over from the morph we were looking at before. We need to replace the B image with the new B image. Let me go back to camera roll. Let me pick the self-portrait of Van Gogh and zoom to get just the essence of the face that we want to morph to. Select Choose. And here I have the A and B images. Now, to create our morph, we need to define some landmarks, some control points that tell us which points correspond to each other on the A and B images. The way we do that is with the Edit button. I tap Edit. I get a series of new buttons that have to do with how we place the points. If I select all, it'll show me which control points currently exist. And the only ones that currently exist now are at the four corners of each of these images. Those are permanent and automatic, and what we want to do is define some new points that will make this hopefully an interesting morph. So let's tap on New. It gives us a loop, kind of a magnifying ring, which we can position. Let me position it so that it's basically centered at this eye, and I'll do the same over here. When I'm satisfied with the two positions of those pair of control points, I'll tap Accept. And then I'll do that for several more points to get enough to make a continuous, smooth transition from the A image to the B image. So let's do a few more. Once I've placed at least 2 point pairs, I begin to see something down here. It's the beginnings of a morphed image. It's not very good yet because we haven't defined very many control points, and it'll get better as we define more. So I'll keep going. And you see each time I create a new point pair, this updates instantaneously. For face images, it's usually a good idea to define points on eyes, nose, mouth. Let's see how we're doing here. It's already looking fairly reasonable, but I'm just going to define a few more points. Okay, that's probably enough to give you an idea of how this process works. If I want to go back into viewing mode, I can tap View. And if I want to zoom, again, I can tap Zoom. And if I want to loop back and forth with what we've created so far, here it is. Gradually morphing between a self-portrait by Rembrandt to a self-portrait by Van Gogh. But you can use any images from any source, from your photographs, from things that you do screen saves from Safari that you see on the internet. All of that is possible. Now, to save something that you've created, we can tap the Save button. It'll remind us that this may take a while. It'll take some seconds, but we'll go ahead and do it. We have a little activity indicator here that shows that this process is underway. So wait for it to run its course. And the speed depends on your device. This happens to be an iPhone 5, and with other devices your speed may vary. To look at what the save produces, it actually produces several products. One of them is a new morph. If we go to our morphs list now, we see that there's this new morph, the one that we've just created. I'll cancel out of this. By the way, if there's a morph on this list that you have created that you don't want to continue to have, you can delete it by sliding and pressing delete. I'm not going to do that now, but that is a way to delete morphs that you may no longer be interested in. These older 4 here, the newer ones go to the top of the list, but these 4 that are included with the app will reconstruct themselves if you accidentally delete them. Okay, other output that occurs from the save operation consists of some photos. If I go to Photos, in my camera roll I now have the original A image, and then, oops, don't really want to start a slideshow. If I go from one image to the next, you see a 10% transition. Each time it's going 10% closer to the B image until we finally get to the B image. This final image here is a special kind which is called a hybrid image. It consists of an A image, the B image that you started with, and one example, namely at the halfway point between the A and the B images. There's also some tiny little binary dots of information that are only useful to the x2yMorph app itself, and their use comes about as a way of sharing such a file. If you save an image file like this, email it to somebody who has the x2yMorph app, they can use new A or new B to bring it back into x2yMorph, and x2yMorph will recognize that it's a hybrid image, and all of the geometry will be reconstructed, and you have the complete dynamic morph. And finally, you get a movie. A short movie, but it shows in a very slow transition what you've created with your morph. So that, in a nutshell, is x2yMorph. If you have questions about it, again, there's a question mark key at the lower right that will bring back the tutorial that has basically everything that I've described, but spelled out in even more detail. And if you go to the website, you can find a link that will get back to me, and we can try to answer your questions. Also, if you're using a 10-inch iPad where you've got more screen space to work with, the user interface is pretty much the same, except the loop does no longer magnify. It doesn't need to magnify because of the higher screen resolution. So there you have it. That's x2yMorph version 2.2. It's on the App Store now, and I hope you like it. Thanks.